Phoenix just flipped the whole season's vibe on its head. Because NASCAR didn't just show up in the desert with another short track package talk week. They dropped a surprise change that instantly turned this race into a strategy war. And then the race itself delivered an ending so tight it felt like the track was shrinking under them. But here's the wild part. While fans were arguing about the new tire plan and who played it right, the garage was already whispering about something else entirely. Not officially. Not confirmed. Just that uncomfortable kind of talk you only hear when teams feel like their pride just got tested. So yeah, Phoenix gave us a historic on-track moment, and a messy off-track tension that could explode later. And that's only half the story. If you're a real NASCAR fan who watches the pit cycle like it's a thriller movie, you're in the right place. This is NASCAR Insider Wire. Hit like, subscribe, and help us get to 1,000 subs because the Phoenix fallout is not done yet. Alright, let's get into what NASCAR changed, how the race turned into chaos, and why the garage is talking. Quick reset before we drop into the recap. The surprise change for Phoenix was the option tire being in play again. Two compounds. Two completely different philosophies. You can run the option and look like a hero for 15 laps, and then look like a clown when the tire wear hits and the lap times fall off a cliff. Or you can stay on the primary and pray you don't get jumped by someone who timed the reds perfectly. And that right there is what made Phoenix feel different. Because for once, it wasn't just who has clean air. It was who has nerve. Stage 1 starts and you could feel it immediately. Everybody's watching who burns what and when. Because if you waste the option tires early, you are basically racing the last stage with your hands tied. And in the middle of all that, Phoenix does the thing it usually doesn't. It throws a multi-car mess early. 4 wide out of turn 2 turns into a big crash that wipes out a chunk of cars and changes the math for everybody. Now the field is flipped. Some teams are thinking, perfect, we can steal track position. Other teams are thinking, great, now this turns into a caution fest and the option tire becomes a lottery ticket. And that's where the stress starts. Because every caution isn't just a restart. It's a decision point. Stage 1 becomes less about raw speed and more about discipline. Drivers who overdrive it kill the rear tires. Drivers who get stuck in dirty air can't even tell if their car is bad or if the aero just has them trapped. And while all that's happening, you've got the number 20 of Christopher Bell quietly looking like the most complete car in the building. Not the flashiest every lap. Not the loudest. Just there. Methodical. Like he's waiting for the race to get desperate. And it does. Now stage 2 is where the option tire storyline really shows its teeth. Because you start seeing drivers gamble with the reds to gain track position fast. And for a while it looks genius. You see cars slicing through traffic like the track finally has grip again. Hold up, this detail is really important. The option tire doesn't just give you speed. It gives you freedom. Freedom to drive it in deeper, rotate it better on corner exit, and actually complete a pass instead of doing that Phoenix thing where you get to someone's bumper and just sit there. But the bill always comes due. The falloff shows up. And when that falloff hits, it's brutal. One moment you're holding the bottom like you own it. 10 laps later you're begging for a caution because the rear is gone. This is where the race turns into a chess match between drivers and crew chiefs. Do you use the option tires to win a stage? Do you save them for the end? Do you burn one set mid-race to get track position, then hope stage breaks and cautions bail you out? Because the worst-case scenario is obvious. You're on reds, you're committed to a run length, and a caution flies at the exact wrong time. And then we head into stage 3 and the tension spikes again because now everyone knows what's coming. Late cautions. Late restarts. And all the perfect strategies get thrown in the trash. Bell, Hamlin, Larson. That whole group is hovering near the front, but it's not a normal Phoenix front. It's fragile. Because the tire choices are splitting the field into different pace levels at different times. You've got guys on primaries trying to survive until the reds fade. You've got guys on reds trying to build a gap before they fall off. You've got teams short pitting trying to get clean air and undercut the leaders. And then the race turns into exactly what NASCAR wanted and exactly what crew chiefs hate. A chaos calculator. Now we get to the late race moment that changed the whole thing. A late caution hits after teams have already committed to their tire plan. So now the question is simple and it's terrifying. Do you bolt on the option tires and risk them falling off if this goes long? Or do you take primaries and risk getting cooked on the restart? And then it gets worse. Another caution. And suddenly, every I don't want this to happen scenario is happening. Quick reset. The biggest thing so far is this. Phoenix turned into a 2-lap, all-in fight where the option tire could either make you look like a genius, or make you watch the win disappear in one corner. And in that final shootout, it becomes a Joe Gibbs racing civil war. Christopher Bell versus Denny Hamlin. Teammates. Same organization. Two grown men who both want to prove they're the guy. The restart happens and you can feel the whole place lean forward. Because it's not just racing now. It's leverage. It's positioning. It's who's willing to move who without crossing that line into something NASCAR has to talk about on Monday. Hamlin gets position. Bell isn't panicking. Larson is right there, ready to pounce if they breathe wrong. And coming to the end, it turns into a side-by-side drag race where there's basically no room for manners. Hamlin leads at the white flag. Bell sends it high, keeps it wound up, and they're door-to-door through the final corners. And Bell gets it. By 0.049 seconds. Second closest finish in Phoenix Raceway history. And it wasn't just a win. It was Bell's third straight win of the season, which is a record in the next-gen era. That's historic. That's the kind of run that turns a good start into, oh, are we watching a season takeover? And don't miss this part. Bell didn't win because he got lucky once. He led over 100 laps. Fastest car vibes. He survived the option tire chaos. He survived the cautions. He survived the teammate duel. And he walked out of Phoenix with momentum that feels heavier than points. Feels like control. Now here's where it gets messy. Because the on-track story is clean. Bell wins. JGR goes 1-2. Crazy finish. Historic streak. But behind the scenes the garage talk is starting to simmer. And I'm going to be super clear. There is no official confirmation of wrongdoing here. No public announcement of an investigation. This is strictly that gray zone world of garage whispers, competitor frustration, and people trying to explain what they just saw. And reportedly, some of the chatter centers around how certain cars looked on corner exit stability during long runs. Not just speed. Stability. Like they were able to pick up throttle earlier without shredding the rear tire. When you've got a race defined by tire wear, that's a huge deal. Some insiders suggest teams were paying extra attention to underbody behavior, aero balance, and how the car stayed planted when the option tire started to fall off. Because if your platform stays consistent, you can manage tire wear better. And if you can manage tire wear better, you can make the option tire look unfair. But there's also the other interpretation. And honestly, it's the one that usually ends up being true. It might just be smart people doing smart racing. A top organization finding a better balance, adapting faster to a new tire situation, and executing clean pit calls while everyone else is guessing. Because when you lose to that, your first emotion is always the same. It's not, we got beat. It's, how did they do that? And then there's the timing of tech scrutiny hanging over the whole weekend. We literally saw NASCAR come down hard on the number 38 team after officials observed an unapproved underbody adjustment before the race weekend fully got rolling. Car chief ejected. Start from the rear. Pass through penalty after taking the green. So the vibe in the garage is already tense. Teams know NASCAR is watching details. And when the racing is this strategic, every little advantage feels personal. So right now you've got two storylines battling each other. One side says this is just what happens when the option tire creates gaps. It's not shady, it's racing. The other side says the performance swings looked unusual, and it's fair to ask questions about setups and how teams are keeping tire wear under control. No proof. No official claims. Just pressure. And pressure is how controversies are born. This matters way more than one win. Because Bell's streak changes how everybody races him. Now when the number 20 is behind you, you're not thinking, I'll hold him off. You're thinking, don't let him get a sniff of clean air. That's a mental edge. And it's early season momentum that can turn into playoff fear. At the same time, NASCAR experimenting with the option tire at Phoenix isn't just a one-off headline. Phoenix is the championship track. So every time NASCAR tweaks anything here, teams treat it like future war planning. If this option tire concept stays clean and keeps producing passing, strategy, and late race drama, we might look back and say this was the beginning of a legendary season. Like, the season NASCAR finally found a lever that actually changes the short track product. But if the garage tension grows and people keep side-eyeing who looked too good on long runs, then this turns into the biggest technical storyline of the year. Not they cheated talk. More like, what did they find and can anyone else find it before it's too late? And that kind of storyline? That turns rivals into enemies. Because now it's not just about wins. It's about legitimacy, dominance, and respect. So I need you in the comments on this. Do you want NASCAR to keep the option tire at Phoenix, even with the strategy chaos it creates? And second, do you think the garage whispers are just sore losers? Or do unusual tire wear and corner exit stability gaps deserve real attention? If you watch every lap, if you argue about pit cycle timing, And if you notice who saves tires versus who burns them up, you belong here. This is NASCAR Insider Wire. Drop a like, subscribe, and let's hit 1,000 subs, because the Phoenix story isn't over when the haulers leave the track. It follows them. And the next time those two are racing for a win, you're going to remember how Phoenix ended. See you in the next one.